Sifra did Tzniuta. We got to the top of page Tuf Kuf Nun Zion yesterday. Let me see if I get that on the screen here. Okay, so we're on number bet. Let me just finish this drink. Okay, so he said, "Beer shani shu beer isib or yakar v'cholam sham." We'll see here. He says, "Beer, the moose of the ale, not their veganis." So there's a string of words here. It seems like I guess when we get done with this, we're getting close to it, that we should go back and look at the whole sentence that the Rebbe Shimon is giving us. This is what he says. Bedillag, he says, "V'od after the farish natir v'gan is chad." So let's just go to that, and then it goes on to Elef Dor, the Elef Yomim Zeirim. Sorry. The Sod Hevel Shuhu Nechlo B'Kedusha. So this is talking about Hevel. So he says Hevel is also part of Kedusha, who's so Mitzias a Kedusha Chazos as Amis Matekes B'Mitikus Din Elyon Ketefrishna Elael. Now apparently there's lots of different ways of looking at that. Not sure what he really meant. That it's sweetened by that Hevel was sweetened by Kedusha coming from up above. V'hinei Shmirah, so that is the word. You have this word natir that appears in here, natir v'ganus, and then it says chad le'elef yomim zeirim. So he says Shmirah, that is the natir, hu letzorach kedusha klipas ha'elyon. Now let's read again. It's for the purpose of the kedusha, klipas elyon. Now what's a kedusha have to do with the upper klipa? Hainu natir v'ganus chad le'elef yomim zeirim. The hundred the Tashmesh Kedusha. Shuhu Meshamish Kitos Hamalachim. Let's just read it again because it's just try to put it together. He says, "What's guarded? What's hidden? Chad for 1 out of 1,000 small days." He says that is the Tashmish Hakadusha for the service of Kedusha. Shuhu Meshamesh Kitos Malachim, which serves, which I don't know, works through different pairs of Malachim. Shesod his Pashtusim. So we're talking about the Heinrich of the Tashmish Kedusha for that is talking about Hevel here. So Hevel works in Kedusha in some way. Shesod his Pashtusim. We're not talking about these Malachim. That whole idea is just too big of an idea. Where he says the Hainu Tashmish Kedusha, we talk about Hevel, who we've said before is part of a Klipa combo, but he says he has a certain amount of Kedusha. Shehu Meshamish Kitas of Malachim. So he says that Kedusha works for Malachim. I'm not sure how. Shesod his Pashtusim Hem Elef Yamim Zeirim, because the secret is as these Malachim spread, or the Kedusha spreads with them. It's the concept of 1,000 yoms of small days. Shuhu so Chanuch, and then I'm not sure what Chanuch, and he says mitat. So Chanuch mitat. So mitat is very, very. It's a very deep idea. He is the Malach of Olam Yetzirah. Malachim come from Olam Yetzirah. I'm trying to string this together so I could try to make a laning. Because everything has to do with him was in the count of small letters. As we said that before, where you can reduce letters down to their basic. Once again, this is another idea which could take a lot more hesber. So he said, what is he? So he's talking about, I guess, these elef small days. So what are the elef small days? Going back to elef yomim zeirim, backing up a little bit. Shuhu sod chanuch matat. Now where do you throw matat in? I always think that matat is the energy that causes a sia. In other words, it represents their anpin or teferis, but it's the panemius of Tiferes, something that causes us to say for like cycle, go around in circles. Is what it is. Come from a tat. So he should so chanuch metat shekol in yada b'misper cotton because everything he has to do goes through with a small count and everything is reduced down to its basic. The parishner of betikunim. Foilefi zecha the milas is galia. So therefore, you're going to put the word isgalia there. That word ahadar, most of the math refers to lukultra. Now that word is in the next piece, and I really forgot what kultra means at the moment. Ad kan, ein sham, v'chemshek sham, bir v'zecha ba'od, v'zel l'shono. In the midst of his words, he says like this, quote, I guess the bitoch the borrowed means, I guess, quote, v'hainu sod chalozon she'enim isgala tamid. This is once again another reference to ideas that would like to be explained further. He says the Hainus Sod Halozon, that's the snail. Sheinim is Galatom, it is not always visible. Elachad Elef Yomin Zeirim, only once in 1,000 small days. Mifnei Shein Sod Habachina Chazod Mishamesh Mishameshes Elachad Elef Yomin Zeirim. So it only really works, or as you see, use the word Mishameshes, once out of every 1,000 small days. The Hainul Sod Madregas the Mitat. Now, how you string that together, I really don't know. Kolo Elef Bechinos, it has within it 1,000 different levels. And one of them is the secret of the snail. So he's the chalazon is the one that's tied to Chelas. A whole big a book you could sounds like you could write a book about this, but Elef Bechinos ve'echad mehem who's so chalazon. Of a soda who besod hadin amishtal show v'yored that goes back down ad kan v'ayin sham od. So I said everything that I wanted that I know to say about Matat. It's very mysterious. He's the Malach of Olam Yetzirah, but he's the main channel there and what he actually does. Would you be interested in reading this one more time? His this beer in the Yor Yakar. Okay, so sometimes we'll see what it is. Let's read it a second time. Here's a second explanation of the Or Yaakov, the Holani is going to go beer the Musa of Lael al Nater Vagonis, so it also, I guess, refers to that. This is the particular language and it's chopped up. He said, V'od Efsha the Farish Nater Vagonis Chad. So he says, just take those three words. One is guarded and hidden. The Hainu Sod Hevel. Okay, what's guarded and hidden about Hevel? So maybe Hevel is part of the story here. Hevel, he says, he's about to say that he's part of Kedusha, Shehu Nichlal B'Kedusha. So he sounds like Hevel is a klipa, which is very close to Kedusha. V'hu Sod Metzius HaKedusha Chazos. So this is the appearance, let's say, Metzius, the reality or the appearance of the Kedusha Chazos. Amismatekes B'Betikos Din Elyon Kefrish. So what is it? The phrase is not the Vagon is chad, and he says that this chad is what? Hidden away, guarded, is hevel. Shehu nichlal b'kedusha. V'hu sod mitzias kedusha chazos. So now he's talking about a certain type of kedusha, or a certain kedusha. Hamis matekes b'mitikos din is sweetened from the din that comes from up above the ale. So what din would that be? That's a din of kedusha, or a sweetened din. Zehiner shmir also, that is the guarding of it. Hulitzorach kedusha kaklivas elyon. Now this particular phrase, I don't know what he wants to say about the kedusha, the klivas elyon. So he's litzorach kedusha. So let's try to make something out of this. Just speculate on what he means. So there are klipas in the higher world. So that is world beyond, maybe he means here Shekel Shakai. So beyond Yitzira and the Silos, and the Sia rather. So therefore he serves. What does he do? What does the klipa elyon do? So anyway, we're still talking about hevel. So let's go through that phrase. The tash kedusha. So that this klipa has some. So it serves kedusha. Shehu mishamish kitos malachim. Because this, he's talking about, I think the subject is hevel, or whatever hevel represents. The hainu, the tashmish kedusha shehu mishamish kitos malachim, that actually works with malachim. It doesn't say how that would work. That is hevel, who is close to kedusha or has some kedusha that comes to him. At any rate, that particular aspect works for malachim. So is pashtusam, because the secret, and it gets deeper, more obscure. He said that the secret of their spreading, that is the malachim, hem elef yamin zeirim. So that's the answer to the question of how they spread and what does that mean. Shehusel chanoch metat. So I'm not sure what chanoch means. Is that another name for metat, or I'm not sure what it means. So Yeshu chanoch metat should call inyana b'misper cotton. That again, what is it about metat that it makes him into account of misper cotton? So misper cotton is a reduction. So is that have to do with this, with hevel? So he says, "V'yihya lefi zecha b'milas is galia." Then according to that, then you had this word is galia. So put that in there too. So he says a hadar that is most of the mat that really turns about to the kultra. So we're going to get to the kultra, which is the next piece. Adkan. Vayin sham behem shech sham. So look over there as we go along. Bir v'zecha be'od v'sel l'shano. He says v'hainu sod chalozim. Now here's another idea that we just have to put it in the file someplace. Sheinim is galatamid, that is not ordinarily seen. It's not always there. Elachad le'elef yamim zeirim, only in short times. So that's one time it appears after of these 1,000 days, which have something to do with metat, because metat is the one that's able to make whatever it is. He's the concept of mispar cotton. That's what he said. Mifnei she'ein so the bechina hazos mishamesh. All right, so we'll come back again. So again, we talked about hevel. So he says it has something to do with chalazon, but exactly what, I'm not sure. So he says that it only works 1 out of 11 small days. The Hainus, so Madregos, the Metat. This is the different levels of Metat. Metat is the Malach, but Zira. Kolol Ela Bechinas, it has 1,000 different levels to it. So the Cholozan, and one of those levels is this Cholozan, and I guess he said that that's the concept that's going to appear every 1,000 small days. Small days, again, referring to Metat, which is referring to Yitzira. Besodahu besod hadin amishtal shel v'yared. And the secret of this is the din. Which din we're talking about? That develops downwards and continues. So there are a lot of words, a lot of name dropping there, but it sure does need a lot of explanation. Let's go to another one. So now he goes to the Pirush of, so that all of those different pieces really needed a string to tie them together, and I did the best I could. Number Gimel is Beferish Marie Saruk, Bir Kandafi Darko. So we've been listening to the Re. He says, Shanachash the Klipa, Mischave Mekoyach Arich. So I think we had this idea before. What does a rich do for the nachash of klipa? Because it's the concept of contraction, I guess, of spreading light. Valpi zechav beer kanvazel lashonos explaining here inami. This is a quote. Milas chad call al osah hakoil shel erik arich. Arich is the one. So he says it's the koach shel arich hagalas beklipos, which is hidden inside of the klipos. They take some of that energy from arich. Shamarno shahachivya shahanachash mishava mimenu, that the nachash actually comes out of arich, who not the vigon is, and that nachash is guarded, hidden away because of bechinas spheros of shel achivya, and all of that is these. Now he's talking about the aspect of arich. This aspect of arich is found in every one of the spheros of the snake. Shehem Aser, which is now he's saying the fact is that the snake has 10 spheros. Then he says the Aser is Kalula Be'aser, Kalula Me'aser, Ve'aser, Kalula Me'aser. So that's how he gets to 10 times 10 times 10. So he gets to 1,000. So he wants to talk about the different madregos of the chivya. So he said Shehem Elef. So it comes out that there are 1,000. So that's just the count he just made. So what is this? As Pirush, the Spirosov Shalachivyu. So this is a completely different Mahalach, of course. So he says this is really talking about the spheres of the Chivya, Shehem Elef Ka'omar, which it says that there's 1,000 levels there. Venikra Spirosov Yomim. So its spheros are called days. Domi L'Rich, it's similar to a Rich. Shesvirosov Nikru Yomim, Kamod, Dad Omer, Atik Yomim, where you call Atik by the name of Atik Yomim. Here's the word Yom. So he said below Shonim, it doesn't call 1,000, it's not called Atik Shonim, Kamo Shal Zer Anpin, for example, Zer Anpin, I don't know this, it's called the Shana. The Sphiros Shabarich, and says this is the reason why that it's called Yomim instead of Shanim or something else, or Shvuos or whatever. It says the fee, let's read it again, the fee the Yomim below Lila. So in other words, they're pure white. So his spheros have no darkness to it. Aval Spheros Shabazer Anpen, whereas there you see, now we use the word years, which is the dinim really are long lasting, that have nights also. So therefore, he wants to say that days is the word yom. Yom, that makes sense. And he wants to say the word shanim. Okay, let's keep going at it. So he compared the word yomim, meaning which is that is at least the pshat I can understand. He says that yomim refers to Eric Anpin because it's all white, it's all daytime. About the sphere bezer Anpin, sheyesh bechem dinim yuchazach of lushanim. It has dinim which are really related to the concept of years. Sheyesh bechem leilos, because years means that there's days and nights. And so let's get down to what does a rich do. So, which is similar to this. Varviach is broadening, that spreads out. I'm sorry, that was the chivya. Zeha chivya. Let me read it again. Hocha shel Eric Anpin mimeno chivya haraviach zeh. I guess the spreading chivya is that's what it represents. Shagam spherosav nikroim yomim, because the days also of the chivya are also called by the name day. Ak elu shel chivya nikru yomim zeirim, but they're called small days. Shalom Kedusha Ma'atis Aklipa, because no matter what, the Kedusha, which apparently he says is also spreads into the Klipa, but it has a way of minimizing the Klipa. So we have this another concept that we haven't really discussed, which is the 12 curtains. So what does that do for you? So it's a curtain, it's covering things. So here's a fact coming from here that this concept of 11 says that it has 11 spheros, shehem arich, so which is a kesed, then the chokma being the das, then gedula is chesed, gevura teferes netzah hod yisod and malchus kanam up. He says it's 11. Look at 11 spheros shebeklipas yesh yud aleph yiriyos b'mishkan. So according to corresponding to that, I try to figure this is a lot of attention. And also Konegdo is the klipos. Konegdo, you have Yud Aleph Yerios to protect the Mishkan Kedei La'achfi alone, in order to be able to push them back or push them down. Sinai. As Yatzah Shal who vised the Asia Metachas Kisa cover, then comes a flame out of from unbelief below the Kisa cover. The Hiksah Klipa al Rosha hits and smacks the Klipa Kadei Lama Mekumasa in order to bring it down, which he said that Kedusha relationships to the Klipa beats them down. It's like learning Torah. I'm thinking that learning Torah beats back the Klipa. V'nechlalo arba sefiro shehem arich, that is kased v'choch v'bina v'das v'chesed, etc. Wait a minute, I read it wrong. He says then what happens is they're incorporated. The four sephiros, which are Keser, Chochma, Bina, and Das, are all incorporated then in a lower in Chesed, which is the body. Then Asibisov Shivas Spheros Bilvad, and it becomes then is mismade into only 7. Now I think what he's talking about, what the klipos, I'm not sure. Then Moshe receives the luchos. Yalta shal huvisa, so then the fire of the Eisha Acheres, there's another fire comes out. The Hiksa Gam came al Rosha Klipa, and then it smites the head of the Klipa, Kadei Lamayat Kumasa, in order to be limited down his size. So that really goes with the concept of Mispar Cotton, but I'm not sure exactly that they went together. The Hiksa Gam came al Rosha Klipa, so there we see that it also struck the head of the Klipa, Kadei Lamayat Kumaso, in order to make it smaller. Nechlala Gedula Gevura Tiferes B'Netzach, all of those get incorporated together with V'Naasa Bas Arba Sfiros Shehem Netzach Hod Yisod Umalchus, so it squeezes it down even more. So that's the way that it was. In other words, this is what you could do if you learn Torah constantly, I guess. You could just beat it away from you. There wouldn't be anything left of it. So that's that fire that came out. The more you add on to it, the more less it gets. Not sure if he's coming back. I'm going to read it out anyway. Shakal Hamosiv Gorea Shemifne Shehi Choisa Yud Alas Spheros. Okay, I'm trying to finish this. I don't know if you have one more minute. And it gave a Luther Shachata Yisra Be'ego, Hayanisha Ba Lo Hayanisha Ba Klum. There wouldn't be anything left. It would be eliminated, made smaller and smaller. Bezer Sha'am Chazal. Shakal Hamosiv Gorea, and the more you add on to it, the lesser it gets. If Shehi Choya Yud Alas Spheros was 11 spheros. Nismatu Ad Shadol Nisha Loki Im Dalad Spheros. It doesn't mean to say that they're gone. Shum Sefira, Elish Nichlal Ka'amor, but they get condensed. The Hainu, maybe that's the concept of Matat, which makes some sense. The it gets shorter. The Gam calls sphere. In other words, the clip is still there, but it's a little one. The Gam calls sphere Shalah, the Mitzad Atzmusam, the Kol Shekain, mitzad kalulusam, hey besod nekuda bilti parts of. So then it gets all the way down to that point where it's just a nekuda without a parts of. Masha ain bekadusha. That's not the other. It's the opposite. Shekol sphere shelo hey mitzad atzmusam hey mitzad kalulusam. Call nekuda yesh lo parts of. So they wants to say whether you talk about the specific one, talking about the whole system. All of them have a parts of. Yomim Shalah Zeirim, and so that's the reason why I guess he's talking about the Yomim of the Klipa. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I think he's saying. Okay, that's it. Thank you for sticking in there with me. Appreciate it. Kol tov.